All right, welcome to the Real Estate Dads podcast with Max Gonzalez and Trevor Celso. We've got our special guest, Marco Jove. Marco is a fantastic real estate entrepreneur. He flips, he wholesales, he owns single-family rentals, he coaches guys. He has over 100,000 followers on Instagram because he's done a really fantastic job of marketing, which is something that we all know in this business is something that takes a total other skill set than just being great at real estate. Marco, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Trevor. It's a pleasure to be here and, to collaborate in any way, man.
So glad. So, and Marco, how old are your kids?
8 and 6. Yeah, 2 daughters.
Both girls, beautiful. Right? 2 girl dad. Mine are 2 and 5. 2 girls.
2 and 5.
Yeah, my 5-year-old just turned 5 today.
Oh, today!
It's our birthday.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
Awesome. My youngest always asks, "How far away is my birthday?" It's one of the pretty common questions.
The 6-year-old.
My 6-year-old, yeah.
I can't wait until my 2-year-old is kind of at the age of like my older one now because I want them. They fight, but the fighting is just because my 2-year-old doesn't speak English yet, and so all she knows is like me and mine and like no, and so I want to be, when they get into like little tiffs, I want to be like, well, you guys work it out, but the 2-year-old is just not quite, I feel like, old enough to participate and let's work this out, right? And so my question to you, the reason I'm giving you all this context is because I'm genuinely curious, like, when did your kids, or like how old did your youngest need to be before they could actually meaningfully participate in a let's work this out type of thing?
Yeah, I'll take it further than that. I see it from the perspective of the gaming, the playing between each other, right? The oldest see the world in a different perspective. My oldest and they're different personalities, so they found themselves like more connected when my youngest was about 4 and my oldest was 6. So because the playing was more, they were sharing more between each other. So, but right now, my oldest is 8 and my youngest is 6. My oldest started to, feel that she's more grown up than she actually is. So the conversations changes, over time. My recommendation is, I enjoy every single second because, never's going to be perfect. I was always looking to find a perfect, instead of they fighting, just they communicate in a better way. They're going to fight. And, I hate them fighting, but it is what it is. So, but I think, between 4 and 5, that's a pretty sweet spot there for them to sharing in a better way.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. A couple years ago.
So I got a question.
Good luck.
So Marco, you've got 2 girls and Trevor has 2 girls, and Trevor says that if you have exclusively girls, you're a girl dad because you don't have any boys. So you are exclusively dedicated to 2 girls. I have a daughter, but I also have a son. Do I still qualify as a girl dad, or am I?
Oh yeah, of course.
Or am I just a regular dad?
Yeah. I mean, you're totally a girl dad. That will never disappear. Girl is yours.
But there is a difference between dads who have exclusively girls. Like you hear it, you're like, hey, look, because it's almost like they're in this other category where when they get home, there's no other males. Like they get home,
I see,
and it's their wife. It's all girls, so they're the only one. So there's a little bit of this. Yeah, it's a little bit of like a badge of honor, a little bit. So that's a.
Well, we have to put a freaking badge on, man, because I don't have someone that I'm going to teach to play baseball, right?
Yeah, man, that was also my kind of like dream to have a boy or something like that, because the relationship that I have with my dad is so beautiful. So we became buddies. We play golf after, and but it is what it is, and I love to have 2 daughters because as Max was saying, I'm the only male figure in the house, so. I think it's some sort of an advantage.
Yeah.
I've got several buddies who have, all daughters, and I used to work with a guy. I think he had 5. He's Catholic
wow.
guy, and he had kept trying for a boy, and they went for number 5, and it was a girl. And it was just
she got the full volleyball team in house.
I know. Actually, thinking about it, they probably, God, well, this was 20 years ago. They might be a full volleyball team. The guy who I'm thinking of, he was like 6'3" or 6'4", and his wife was like the same. She's not
All right.
6'4", but she was like 5'11". So yeah, thinking about that in fast forward sense, I should check in. But in regards to business in general, so your kids are young, and are you done? No more kids?
We'll have to figure it out, and that part. If you ask me, I do. For the bottom of my heart, I would love to have a boy, just for the sake of kind of like having the same relationship between him and I. But I'm good. Like it's if right now is we know what God says. So basically, we're not planning.
There's a lot of stress relieved after you already have a couple kids. I've known a couple of people. In fact, we've had a couple guests on the show where there was some difficulties getting pregnant. There were some trials.
Oh, I've been there.
And more people have than you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you actually have, a child, a lot of that stress gets relieved because you have one already. So, for me, we talk about having more kids, but having the two might just be just fine.
I think it's a good number, like airplane wise.
Airplanes, cars, everything.
Cars is now we're trying to travel into Knoxville in December, and we're 7, and my mom and dad, my mother-in-law, and basically we're maxed out. So if we were to be one more, then we need an extra car, which
a van, need a Sprinter.
Oh yeah, exactly, or a bigger car.
Yeah.
That's the big because there's the piece that's just your time at home. How many kids are you dividing your time against? But logistics. Mm-hmm. Actually transporting lots of bodies places is totally other piece to that component. We just did Disneyland last week for the first time since we had both our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was manageable, but we had to really reassess our own personal expectations for the day.
It's one per kid. Basically, it's one per kid, one adult per kid. Now, if you start getting more, it start getting a little bit out of control, but a patient is something that you have to develop or just have it as part of your personality. I'm not a pretty patient guy, so probably an extra boy will help me out getting better in that regard.
I feel like real estate is an industry that helps you learn patience because it takes so long. It's like this process by which it takes several years to kind of.
That's true, man. Yeah. It's interesting you say that because like you see a lot of people that are newer in real estate. And, the thing I've never had a real estate deal go as planned 0 times. Right. And so like,
right.
People that are like new to that, it's almost like a punch in the face. They're like, what the hell is going on? And some people, it takes them freaking forever to finally learn how to go with the flow and roll with the punches and just get the deal done and be be friendly to work with in the process,
Yeah, I agree with that. The more times you've blazed a path, the less stressful it gets because you're like, no, I've already figured out how to get this, whatever this task done is. I've never wanted to flip houses. And Marco, we'll jump into your experience, but the whole process. So you flipping about 6 a month right now? Is that or
no,
6 in process?
Yeah, six at the same time. I might ended up this year probably doing 14 in total flips by themselves. And I haven't been a pretty good fan of like flipping volume. I'm more about quality. So I'd rather do one and make the same amount of one big one than instead of doing like 4 small ones. Because the small ones, you make one just little mistake and then you're basically
profit's
out.
Gone or you're
So the business model that I created was towards like a bigger spreads and a more complex type of flips instead of just the cookie cutter ones.
What markets are you in, Marco?
I'm in Miami, Broward, Palm Beach. I tried to go to Central Florida, Tampa area, St. Petersburg, like West Coast. It didn't went well. So I'm just coming back with knowledge, but less money, if I may say it that way.
And what was the reason? Was it the travel? Was it the markets? What were the issues?
Yeah, I mean, a combination of the type of properties, there were older properties, smaller properties, the type of construction. In my original buy books, I only had like CBS built houses. like concrete block structures, like solid houses. So when I start moving towards a different market, those houses are like 1920s, 1930s, wood frame, pretty small, tiny houses. And I kind of like, I don't think I really understand the neighborhoods as I should. So I just saw the price and potential the comparable. But man, those markets, we're getting hit on pricing pretty badly. So just to put you in perspective, my comparables, and I have 4 houses there that I haven't been able to sell yet. So, and that's been over, on general, about 200 days. So it's a pretty bad situation that I'm facing there. And so I thought my comparables were like 390, for example, in a couple of them. And I have it listed for 340, 339, and nobody's calling. Of course, this hurricane thing and everything, like the natural disasters are not helping, but still, it's for me, it's a learning experience. On the other hand, my properties in Miami and Broward County, they're just still flying out of the shelf. So that's when I teach in my community is a real estate. It's moved by a microeconomics, but you have to decide as a microeconomics. You have to see the small neighborhoods, like small cities.
Oh,
your
yes.
pocket. Even though, interest rate are global, inventory rises. In certain ways, you can see it on a macro perspective. But when you're deciding where to invest, how to invest in, you have to be very, very, micro educated.
All real estate's local. It's
Yeah,
affixed to the ground.
Yeah. So, and in regards to your current deals, the hurricane season is one thing. How's this, one thing that we see nationally, but how's insurance?
Insurance is crazy, man. Like I'm bringing the insurance back to my rentals, because insurance wise, when you flip houses, you have as like a small insurance, builder's risk type of insurance that is pretty short term. And when you sell, you're out. But when you hold in properties in Florida, all this, disaster just affect you as a landlord, because all these insurance are increasing just crazy, like doubling.
Have you ever had a claim?
No, never.
See, that's the interesting thing I always hear about this is that, you have these people who have these massive increases, but the actual issues of a claim has never happened. We had one claim that was really significant on property in Phoenix. We had a guy who came onto our property and he stole the copper wiring out of the tower. Actually, I mean, we're surprised the guy didn't get killed. We're really lucky that we didn't just find a guy dead on site.
So wait, dude stole the copper wiring?
Yeah, a guy came on our property. We were already renovating units. The unit was empty, and he went out behind the property to where the pole was, and between the pole and the house, he had stolen some of the wire, and it caused the electrical system within the unit to arc. So it, if you get soot inside the walls, that causes a future fire hazard. So despite the fact he just stole some of the wiring, when it arced, we had to pull all the wiring out to redo the entire unit. So we had actually a relatively large claim. About $60K, and at the end of that year, the insurance company didn't renew us. Which
oh wow,
yeah. So I mean, it's just that way it went.
I had a situation in one of my properties that I have rented, and that happens about 2 weeks ago. Like, I don't really understand what happened, but it was raining inside the property. Like the roof just had a big hole. So we don't know if a piece of branch just hit the shingle roof or something, but just definitely broke a hole in the middle of the roof. And my tenant was sleeping while all the drywall on the bedroom fell on top of him, because all the water was basically, getting wet, the ceiling drywall, and it just fell like a rock. So thank God, like the guy didn't get hurt, but my insurance company, I have a builder's risk, so I learned, because I buy the property, I renovate it with a hard money loan, have it a builder's risk in place. Then I put a tenant in there and I refinance it. But meanwhile, I refinance the property, it stays on the builder's risk. I don't have a general liability insurance as I should. So in that particular case, the insurance company told me that, making a claim, it's going to be like pretty hard to prove, because I basically I was not doing things right in that particular case, because builder's risk protects you if you have the property vacant. So immediately, I lesson learned. I put general liability insurance in all my properties that I have rented with builder's risk. So, yeah.
So now you're covered on that.
Good to
Yeah.
know.
So Marco, so let's we're gonna come back to your kids here, but let's hear the immigration story. You said that was a great story, so let's hear that.
So I came to United States 2013 with my wife, basically looking for opportunities. My country became a pretty dangerous place to live and a pretty bad place to raise kids. So we were just recently married. We have a pretty bad situation in Venezuela. We're almost pretty close to get kidnapped. Actually, we were into a car chase, like movie style, with guns and everything. And I was refusing myself to leave my country because, I have my mom and dad, brother, all my, my business that I had there. And that night, it was so scary. Like literally guys pointing out guns, we running away in cars, like, 150 miles an hour. It was crazy.
They're trying to kidnap you or just rob you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the days, the kidnapping was pretty, lucrative for, the bad guys, because they just get you in, and then they call your family, and then just get, some money.
Wow.
to free you. So it was pretty common that to happen. But that night I was so afraid that I went to my apartment and I told my wife, you pack your bags, put everything that you can into whatever suitcase we have, and we're moving to my mom's tomorrow. So next day, 6 a.m. in the morning, I had like 4 suitcases full of clothing in my mom's apartment. And I told, hey, we're leaving. Basically, we're going to stay here. We didn't feel so much secure where we initially were living. So long story short, it took me like 8 months to figure it out to come here. I'm a Spaniard as well. So I came here and bought a business, a legitimate business. So that business allowed me to receive what is called an investment visa for Spaniards, the E2 visa. But that visa only allow you 5 years to live in the country and allow my spouse to work. So I need to spend, quite a good amount of money to get my papers through my wife job certification in the company that she is still working for over 10 years. So we became residents like 5-6 years later, and we became citizen about 7 years later. So it was I had to hold businesses all over while I was in the process of, from my visa to my residence to my citizenship. So yeah, it was a long story, but a pretty nice one, because I see a lot of people that they want to come here to this beautiful, amazing country the wrong way. So I'm an immigrant, but I support legal immigrants. So it took me thousands of dollars, dozens of thousands of dollars to really legalize myself into United States. And I don't see why everybody else shouldn't do the same.
That's an interesting strategy. So how did you said you bought a business in the United States, like you bought a pre-existing business?
Yes, it was a party rental company. And because I had, as a Venezuelan, I couldn't have that possibility, because, United States has some arrangements with different countries, and specifically with Venezuela. No.
They don't have arrangements, yeah.
Correct. So you have like Italy, Portugal, Spain, and other countries.
And so you're a Spanish citizen.
Correct.
Okay.
I had nationality of exactly citizenship of Spain. So I have a Spanish passport because of my grandmother. Okay. She was from Spain. So because of that, I was able to buy this business and get and an investment visa to live here for 5 years while I was building and hiring people and and paying payroll and paying taxes and everything. And that visa, which is called the E2 visa, it still exists, by the way, allow your spouse to work. So they give you Social Security, they give you a job permission to work to your spouse. To myself, I couldn't work to anybody else but my company.
So you got an I-10, she got an SSN. So
Not sure
she
the
got
terminology.
she got a social security number.
Yeah, but we both did.
Or did
but
she get that
permission to work.
ITIN?
No. Both Social Security.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And so how much did you buy this business for?
$150,000
Cash.
cash. That was a little bit more than half of my savings that I was saving from my Venezuelan business.
Okay. Anyways, when Nicolas Maduro, when did he come to power?
Nicolas Maduro, I think he came to power. Oh man, I'm pretty bad with dates. Remember Chavez went into the power in 99, but Maduro, I think he probably is 8 year already in the power, something like that.
So he wasn't all right. So it was under the Chavez regime.
Yeah, it was under the Chavez. With business wise, it was not as bad.
Right,
We
right.
could do business. Actually,
Yeah.
I had 260 customers. I distributed toys. So I had magic shops in shopping centers. I used to be a magician. So I was the first Venezuelan guy that brought magic sets in Spanish ever in all Latin America. So I brought magic sets. I filmed an explanation in Spanish. I put the DVD, the Blu-ray. I don't know if you remember that inside those boxes and sell to toy stores. So that product became a hit, and I started bringing more different products from China to Venezuela to sell toys to my clients. That was my business. While I had a small kiosk of magics. You love those?
Dude, you just had me at I'm a magician. I was like, whoa.
Well, I used to be. I had my show and everything. I was a kid magician back in my days, and I my idea was to franchise the magic business between shopping centers and shopping malls, like those little carts in the center that show you magic, and then you buy the tricks, and then they teach you. I use that. That's how I started. So, yeah. So when I came here, I bought that pirate rental company, and that pirate rental company investing allowed me to get that visa, that special visa called investment visa for Spaniards.
Do you still have that business now? Do you still run that?
No.
operation?
No, I sold that business 2.5 years later, and then I opened up a magic shop in Miami. And I bought a magic shop in Miami, and I partnered with somebody that was a pretty big magician here, but the business just fell through the cracks pretty quickly. And I basically lost, no, I would say all my money, but like 80% of the money invested in here. Like, I invested buying a franchise, and I did it went well. But anyways, long story short, that business allowed me to get my legality in this country, which is unheard of to see people 20 years, 30 years without paper. That's I can imagine what these people have. You have to be insane.
That's really cool. How did you? I have so many questions, but
Yeah, I've got several also.
How did you get from magician to real estate? How about we start with that one?
The magic flipper.
Yeah.
Oh man. So 2017, after 4 years of trying and error, and just thus would not fit any business for me, unfortunately, at that time, I employ myself. So I start working for somebody else, something that I promised never to do again. And that company was a investment group that they were buying properties, fixing them up, and putting us at Airbnb in South Florida. So I started as just like an administrative bookkeeper of the company, And I became, in about a year and a half later, to the general manager of the company. So I was basically overseeing the entire people of the business pretty quickly. And that business just fell apart. The partners just split, and then they opened up a new business doing beauty supplies importations. So that was my expertise. I knew how to import, export, logistics, containers. So I did that because I needed to bring products from overseas to my country and handle all the logistics and the sales and everything. So I became the director operation of a company that distributed beauty products to 7-Eleven. So, and other products. So we started doing pets, traveling, and then the business just failed into the cracks because it was pretty poorly managed, and decision making by the owners, they were not pretty good. And in the meantime, I always, liked the idea of, real estate. 2019, my boss, October, fired me. He told me, hey, pack your bags, you're out. And I never saved enough money. I was making probably like $80,000 a year as a director of operation of that company. And I was living a good life, but I was not saving. Something that I was pretty used to do when I was back in my country in Venezuela. So I got fired, 2 kids. I was like, okay, now what am I going to do now? So I had that memory in year and a half working with houses and contractors and finding deals and Airbnb and watching YouTube videos and listening to a lot of podcasts, that I decided to go all in into real estate. So I had $30,000 in my bank account. And I was like, I told my wife, if we fail, we got to go back to Venezuela because I'm not going to work for somebody else again. I was pretty mistreated in that, for probably like 3.5 years or 3 years. So I bought a wholesaling course in October 2019 or November, and it didn't go well. I didn't understand, what cold calling was. Like that course, it gave you a lot of videos and 1 call per month, and that was it. $5,000 course. I'm not going to name the course. Then, January, I bought into the Ryan Pineda's course.
January 2020.
January 2020 or February, something like that. And, I started, wholesaling. I don't like wholesaling, kind of. I am not good at it. So I'm going to be the flipper, right? I'm going to buy the properties from the wholesalers. So I raised capital. I raised $90,000 from one of my, best friends. And I bought my first property in January 11, the day of my birthday, 2020. I fixed them up.
January 11, 2020.
Yes.
Wow.
So yeah. I know you're laughing, right? Because it went so well. I did the flip in like 4 weeks. We flew it. We put the property in market. We had a buyer. I was going to make like 60 grand. March 13, COVID.
Uh-huh.
It was like the buyer back out of the contract. And I told my realtor, you know what? I don't care what you do, but I need you to sell that property. Just cut the price. I got scared. And at the end of the day, we got it sold. I made like $28,000. And I said, well, it's not bad. So, between, the need and making money and COVID, I bought 2 properties sight unseen. So from wholesalers. And in total, that first year on my home, during COVID, I make $90,000. So I match my salary doing only 3 transactions a year by myself with no money. Well, little money. I had a little money. So, somebody asked me, hey, when is the right time? If you ask me today, if the flipping business was good to do it through COVID, I would say you're crazy. Because honestly, everybody knows what happened after the poker cards are shown. But during COVID, I got scared. I thought, economy was going to be crash. All the house going to be, yeah.
We didn't know if like half the population was going to die.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like like in the rearview mirror, I happen to think COVID was a big nothing burger. To be honest, I think that's another episode. That's another episode of going down the rabbit hole. But but at the time, yeah, we didn't know. We didn't know that they were going to drop interest rates as much as they did. We did not know there was going to be this explosion or this pent up demand that was going to rip through 21 and 22. So sorry, keep going.
No, I mean, I'm exactly what you're saying. I mean, that time, for that reason, it's never a perfect time. It's just, it is in my story, it was the need of first not work to somebody else ever again, because definitely shown that they control my future and I'm not going to allow nobody else to control my future or my family's ever. And the real estate, even though in the worst or the bad days, it behaves. So, of course, we never knew that the demand was going to pick up that way. But over time, and I didn't went in by myself. I invested $17,000, having $30,000 in my bank account in mentorship. So a lot of people say, well, I read a book. I just, saw a YouTube video and I'm going to flip houses. You can do it, but there's so many details, so many things that could go wrong. And you have to better learn from somebody that already been there so you don't make those mistakes.
Yeah, it's it's 30,000, for a course, or potentially a $30,000 loss on a deal, depending on how you look at it. I mean, a lot of those mistakes in real estate can be expensive, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
The hard lessons.
Yeah.